Okay, so how many times has this been? 9? So you should pretty much know what we're doing here. Another brutal to most brutal death battle ranking, and of course the rules still stay the same. First off, any death that's seen can be ranked, which leads to the next rule, that it must be a confirmed death. Also, this does not reflect my views of the results, as this is just a ranking of the brutality of the deaths. And then lastly, and as always, this is opinion-based. And so with that, we start the brutal to most brutal death battle deaths of Season 9. Honestly, never thought that we'd see the two most prominent fusions of Dragon Ball pitted against each other, but here we are. And this makes it to the bottom of the list for good reason. First off, it was a quick death, done by Energy Beam, and it wasn't even a long drawn out painful blast either, nor did it vaporize Gogeta. It actually ended up petrifying him, ending it with a respectful fist bump from Vegito as Gogeta turns to dust. It's also heavily implied that Shenron just brings him back anyway. The battle of Sun Wukong vs Hercules is also a quick and painless death. During the battle with their physical bodies, their heavenly bodies join in on the clash. Of course, this just ends in Hercules being completely obliterated, so not really a whole lot of brutality there. So we get to have one of those, yes, this exists type of fights. And of course, considering how the results of this battle went, maybe they underestimated SpongeBob. Of course, before his death, they added insult to injury by showing Aquaman that he was the worst variant of them. This did not deter him from entering the final clash with SpongeBob, as he used the entirety of the world's water supply and marine life to create a large whirlpool. Unfortunately for him, SpongeBob still hit him like a nuke. Now, although he was burnt to a crisp and deteriorating, it was Aquaman's interaction with his opponent that made this a little less brutal. In fact, SpongeBob even memorialized him after his death. Sort of. So in a way, we kind of put a double death here, and I'll explain. During Homelander's and Omni-Man's battle, there were some bystanders that did get caught up in the blast. Now I'm only assuming that the ones on the plane had a quick death, but this one's really for the ones who were on the street. Sure, they were vaporized, but there was a quick scream of pain as they were. Now this is probably the last one where the loser gets a respectful end from his opponent. More like a mercy kill, actually. Tetsuyo's power grows completely out of control, and Magneto can hear his cries for help. Having to have contained the Big Bang explosion, he uses it to cut through this mutated monster. And when Tetsuyo is back in normal form and lunges at Magneto, he shoots a laser straight through his head. The biggest thing not making this any more brutal is that this was a quick mercy kill that Tetsuyo was very appreciative for. From mercy kills to I'm actually going to end you kills. Although this is one that also happens pretty quickly, it's a little higher up because it's one that doesn't have an emotional ending attached to it. It's also more than just a sword clash, as it ends with a literal bang. Okay, so I don't have much to say about this one. It earns its placement because for a Predator, it's pretty damn dishonoring to lose. I mean, sure, he's vaporized pretty quickly in his own explosion, and that's probably what keeps it from going any higher, is he did at least get to go out on his own terms. So we made it this far into the video and finally make it to the ones that have a little bit more to them with their brutality. And for Scarlet Witch to think that she had the win, only for Zatanna to appear behind her and have her stuck in place, this is already a bad start for her death. Add in being thrown into a box and sawed in half, and no, not a magic trick, she was literally cut in half. probably fitting that the first of the deaths from this battle is actually at number 13. During the Jason Voorhees vs. Michael Myers battle, we have a few victims running for their lives, trying to survive. The first of these, a female victim named Alex, cut down at the hands of Michael Myers. Now we don't get to see the death in full, but we know what happens, and it's not pretty. Now time to talk about the real star of this fight. Yes, this guy. It was a simple stab from the back, but there are small implications that he did choke a little on his blood before dying, which would make it a little worse than his girlfriend. Okay, so there was maybe one more that had an emotional ending, and it sits just outside the top 10. Tanjiro almost had a win, but unfortunately for him, his opponent was able to move his own organs. Tanjiro being completely open to attack, Jonathan goes in with a Sunlight Yellow Overdrive. And of course this attack is what really puts this death up this high. And what we're left with is a very familiar scene with Tanjiro dying in his opponent's arms, and Jonathan showing him respect. And now we make it into the top 10 with John Wick's death, which happens as things get a little out of hand. As John Wick does show his massive durability, it only takes him so far. Especially with Bond getting the upper hand when his car intervenes, allowing Bond to drop a well-placed chandelier on top of Wick. Now, Harley Quinn's death is a lot like John Wick's, but I do place it slightly higher. Yes, we do have Harley Quinn being shot at and then kicked up against something, and then we have a few moments between that and the initial death. It's during these few moments that Harley tries to pull a Joker. Unfortunately for her, it doesn't work out quite as well, as her opponent's a bit smarter than that. She's then shot off by a rocket and blown to bits in the distance. Our number 8 spot has us finding out about the one Dark Lord to rule them all. Now, having your soul destroyed is already bad enough, but what if it's being destroyed by souls that you once controlled? Well, that's what happens to the Lich King when Sauron manages to free all of the souls that he has captured, and they turn on him after the vortex is set on fire and absorb his soul, to which Sauron then proceeds to take the Lich King's throne just to add insult to injury. So we have Deku's death next, and the initial death to this starts with Deku and Asta clashing at full power. And it's unique in its own way, as Deku did in a way win the clash. However, Deku may have thought that he was in good standings after being drained and injured from his use with One for All, giving Asta the opportunity to end it with his swords hovering above Deku. We talked about the victims, and now we can finally talk about Michael Myers' death. Now, first off, as far as any agonizing pain from the death, it's questionable of whether or not he may have even felt it. That being said, having an axe be lodged into your skull is still bad enough. Then add in having your head sliced clean off, and you have a pretty brutal way to die. At least Jason was efficient when it came to cleaning off the axe. We have finally made our way into the top 5 of Season 9's most brutal. Trunks makes his attempt at attacking Silver, but finds out that it is no use. Silver then uses his abilities to make Trunks' sword disappear and reappear behind him. Not only is it brutal to be attacked by your own weapon, but probably also very dishonorable for a Saiyan as well. Also, not like it was a quick one-and-done stab, and then painfully being taken out of existence to end it all. So not only did they have both father and son in the same season, but they also get to be right next to each other on this list. Now, I'm sure you remember the scene from Ragnarok when Thor threatened Loki with Mjolnir. Well, that's pretty much how this death goes. I mean, it's not like Vegeta didn't go all out. I mean, he threw a full-powered final flash at Thor. Unfortunately for him, Thor managed to survive it. And then Thor decided to do to him what he did to Loki. Only this time, he wasn't going to let go. Having Mjolnir crush your head in is both brutal and painful, and it took its time doing so. So we're back to the Omni-Man vs. Homelander fight for the first of the top 3. Omni-Man's wife, Debbie. Though this happened off-screen, the charred skeletal remains, and the fact that it was Homelander tells us that he enjoyed every second of using his heat vision to slowly and agonizingly burn her to a crisp. Well, Black Adam's face certainly looks familiar, as though we've seen it earlier in this list. Now you really could put these top 2 in any order that you want. For Black Adam, using up all of his powers only to fail is just the tip of the iceberg as to how brutal this fight was. And you'd think getting his face stomped in by Apocalypse would be the end of it, but he was actually still living after that, long enough to be shown the annihilation of his country and people before having his brain fried, and his agonizing scream definitely shows that he felt every bit of it. Omni-Man made a promise, and he made sure to keep to that promise. Now it was amazing enough and painful that Homelander still lived after his jaw was ripped off. Even more so with his heart ripped out of his chest. But then having his own heart shoved into his mouth and forced to bite down on it as his head is crushed in, making that his last meal, is what makes this the most brutal of Season 9. But what do you think? You can let me know in the comments below whether you agree with my rankings or if you think there was another one that should have made it to the top. Also, please be sure to like and subscribe, and hit the bell to be notified. Also, please check out some of my other content, and until next time, keep gaming.